Hi everybody, welcome to South Olympic Branch update number 95. It's Larry here again, and this time we're just going to start out by watching this cool intermodal train leave Elma, pass through Satsup and Montesano. Proceeding past the crossing and around the end of the peninsula, we will pass the chemical plant, which there's not much to see yet, but eventually there'll be a bunch of tanks, pipes, and all kinds of stuff over there. Most of the track for that facility is laid out already, so it's just a matter of putting buildings and such around it. But I'm obsessed with making that look realistic, and so there's going to be a lot of work there. The signal that you see there is not quite set up the way I want it to be. Eventually, I wanted to respond to the turnout position as well as train detection. Okay, so this is where you first saw the train coming around out of the yard. So then we proceeded past the Elma yard, and we'll be heading to the inner loop of the Helix. That'll take us west and down to Aberdeen and Hoquiam. So here's an overall basic view of the track plan for the main level. And to the right, you can see the two tracks that go off for the Helix, and then the lower one is the one that's going to go up into the east for staging. Some of you out there probably feel like I get a new locomotive every single time I do one of these videos. That's not quite true. Maybe every other time. No, I'm sure it's more spread apart than that. But lately, I've had a bunch of pre-orders. It seems like just about every other month, something I'd ordered shows up. This time, this one should be a new Bowser. An RS3 that was a one-off SP&S paint job. Okay, let's take a look. I'm gonna pause it for a second while I get it out of all this. Okay, this is SP&S number 97. This one was SP&S's only blue and white unit, as far as I know. Oh, looks like Bowser has changed their box. Again, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. Anyway, so there it is. Let's see. I'll pause it again here. As is typical with the Bowser packaging, they have a plastic mounting piece in here. If I can get that out. Wow. I don't remember having one be this hard. Anyway, they got a couple of screws that the bottom is mounted to. There's the screws. I don't know. Sometimes I think these are better than the way the other manufacturers do this. Other times I think it's more annoying. So your mileage may vary, as the case may be. Okay. All right. So out go the screws, and we are free at last. Okay. Let's put this baby on the track. Layout's not on at the moment. Okay. Okay, ladies and germs, I can almost guarantee this is going to be loud. First, we'll hear all the tortoises go off when I turn on the layout. Okay, as is customary, horn, okay, bell, couple flash, probably some kind of fan, function 4. I'm seeing the lights, although the forward light is on, not going. That's interesting. So I had a hard time getting it moving, and I discovered that I somehow had turned on the independent brake, which is F10 or function 10. So once I turned that off, we were off to the races. Time for a break-in run. So this module, I wanted a road on it, so I've carved this area out, and I'm going to put some fine leftovers from my sifted paving sand on there after I put some glue down, and then we'll see what that looks like. I believe this will work. To be honest, I've done this technique before, so here we go. Okay, so I've done layer number 1. I'm also dumping some of this down the side of the tracks. My friend Mike Stepner and I had volunteered to go help sort through some stuff that had been donated to the 4th Division. So we went up to Newcastle, where Russ Segner, who's been a very active member of the division for many, many years, worked with us on that stuff. And then before we left, we got a little tour of his layout. This is the Cold Creek Lumber Company. It's SN3 or S narrow gauge. And basically that means you darn near have to build everything. And Russ has done a really nice job on the layout. And he regularly hosts operating sessions. He uses NCE on this layout for those who would be curious about such things. and has probably had some articles in the Narrow Gauge Gazette, I would guess. I don't read that particular magazine, but I wouldn't be surprised. Look at that sawmill, man. And the hills and the rocks and everything's just really, really well done. The trees and all of that. It's a really nice layout. And then my friend Mike is up here, and there he is taking pictures off in the distance there. And Russ started building this layout around 2001. And so it's just 20 years old, which I say just, but you know, the way it looks, so you could maybe think he's been at it for 30. Say hi, Mike. And this part of the layout actually goes over the staircase and around and comes back on a peninsula. Pretty neat stuff. Last night I came home and did a little more scenery work on this module. I think the road is coming along nicely. The lighter part is where I haven't applied some scenic glue, as I decided to make the road a little bit wider than it was. I'm using some knock trees on this one. Not all of them, but I bought some of these to check them out and found that, well, I just wasn't all that impressed. But since this module is going to travel, I think it's going to blend in with the rest of the forest okay. And I'm going to buy some more Grand Central Gems trees to put on here, and probably put some more of the Scenery Express super trees as I get some of those made as well. I think probably when I get through laying down the basic scenery here, my next step is going to be to start ballasting the track. I've decided I'm going to convert this one from manual throw to having a lock and keyed turnout control, which I'll show you later. My friend Andy Golzer is putting together some panels for me, so which I'm going to have to pay him for, but that's okay. That gives us the ability to lock the turnouts on one side when we're at a show. As we have, of course, found that sometimes the public just comes up and starts pushing buttons, which is not very nice of them, but they don't understand what they're doing, so there you go. Anyway, I think this module is coming along really nicely. Once I get the control on there, I'll start putting trees up closer to the road, and I'm going to have to get one of those little metal shacks that the railroad has, you know, for electronic cabinets next to that as well. Recently, a viewer suggested that I do a layout tour, and I asked them to elaborate, but I'm pretty sure what they meant was more of a description of the layout. So here we go. Okay, we're starting from the top where the staging yard will be, and I'm not going to spend too much time on that because, as you can see, there's nothing but some plywood up there. And all the way down at the end, it'll come around down there, and then it'll start back this way again. And when it gets back here, it's going to go through that narrow gap into the helix. It's going to go, of course, go around in the helix, and then it'll come out here on that single track part of the helix. The upper part of the helix is going to be single track, and it'll come out onto the main line in front of the yard. As we would come down from the staging deck, we enter the Elma yard, which is what I would consider the main yard of the South Olympic branch. There's 5 tracks in the yard, and then these 2 in front are what I would consider the main lines. This one, when you come down from the staging deck, which, like I said before, isn't built yet, you can cross over and go this way, or you can stay on this track. If you stay on this track, you come around this side of the peninsula first. More on that in a minute. If you stay on that inner track, you'll go around the other side of the peninsula, and you'll end up coming back this way on this side. If you wanted to, you could cross over here and then back up the train, go through this turnout to what I consider the east switch down there, which would basically kind of put you in the Helix, and then you could go into the yard from there. The only flaw in my continuous running plan is that one of the yard tracks has to be empty in order for that to work. It's, it's not perfect, but I still enjoy it quite a bit. I'm thinking I'm going to put another track in back here. I'm going to cut in a switch back here, and I'll use some of these background buildings that came from the original layout and create some switching back there. It seems like it might be a long reach, but the deck is only 24 inches wide here, so it's not too bad. And I don't think I'm going to go all the way down, but who knows? I might go and do that. We'll see what happens. I refer to this side of the peninsula as Montesano, even though in my era, Montesano didn't really have any railroad-served businesses, and there never was a cement plant that was attached to the line, as far as I know. And then this is where the chemical plant, inspired by the Ventron chemical plant, is. The Ventron chemical plant is actually kind of south of Elma, south and east. So really, that's not the right location for it at all. But when you got that cool of a business, for the railroad with 5 tracks in there, you got to figure out a way to do that. I built into my Ventron a runaround track. Even though the real one doesn't have that, I'm just like, that's just going to make it a lot cooler for switching. And then we'll come to the crossing. When we go to the crossing, it kind of is the divide, if you will, and you get into what I refer to as Sassup. Sassup is actually between Elma and Montesano, but if you're coming out of the yard, you're going to end up on those tracks over there, and you're going to get here first. That's just the way it is. And again, there's no rail-served businesses at Sassup. I think there was at least one sawmill at one point, but that's no longer there. It wasn't there even when I was a little kid. I don't remember it being there. My brother, Marty, got immortalized on the layout as Martin and Son Custom Fabrications. Marty can do a lot of different things like welding and stuff. So I thought it'd be cool to have a business basically for him that could get some rail service, box cars, flat cars, etc. And then I really like tank cars and some refrigerator cars, and I thought it'd be cool to have like a food plant even though there's no food plant out in Grays Harbor County that I've ever known, but here we have Olympic Foods, which I created solely based on the idea that I wanted to be able to use corn syrup cars and grain cars and so forth. And I think this is going to be a really fun switching area. Here's kind of a track plan with spots on it. It's not up to date, but we're getting there. Then we come to what I call the Wynoochee River. The Wynoochee actual river bridge is a single track, kind of an offset bridge. One side of the girders are offset from the other. It's actually kind of a cool looking bridge, but when I thought about it, I really want to double track, and that kind of allows me to feed into the other side of the peninsula and into the yard and the main line. And gives me a longer switching lead on this end. But, really gave me the opportunity to kind of, I wouldn't say model a scene, but create a scene that was based on that river. And maybe in this video, I'll include a photo I've taken of that bridge so you guys can see what I'm talking about. The backdrop for this area was actually taken in the area of that bridge, just a couple miles away. Anyway, off what we call Devonshire Road down there. So here's the other side of the end of the other side of the peninsula. And as you can see, it goes around and you're seeing the yard over there. I think this scene worked out really well. I'm really pretty darn happy with it. If you go back in my old videos, you can see the construction of it as it went, as things progressed. As promised, here's a picture of the scene of the Wynoochee River crossing. The bridge pillars for this, the abutments, were a little bit different. And I showed this to my friend Chip, who designed and 3D printed them for my layout. And there you have it. That's the synopsis for the upper level, main level of the layout. And here's the basic track plan for that. See if we can get this train rolling and get a little view of the Helix. Round and round we go. When I constructed the Helix, I used T-taps for wiring connections from the track bus. But given how I was using like 14 gauge wire for the track bus and 22 to 24 for feeders, I had to actually combine a T-tap with a spade connector that was a smaller gauge. That worked, but if I was doing this again, I would probably reconfigure and use lever nuts. Another thing you'll see here, as we're now on the lowest complete circle of the Helix, is the track bus goes all the way around. I just went round and round with the track bus in blue and white wire. If I was doing this again, I would like space and do vertical for the connections. That way I would have used, a lot less wire in doing that, and it would have been just as effective. Now I stopped the train and moved the camera around out of the Helix so we could get the entrance to the lower level. I spoke earlier about another river on the layout, and where all this stuff is right here is probably where the what we would call the Wishkah River would be. Time to change camera positions again. Okay, we're gonna follow the train down that way. Actually, I think I'm gonna cut some of this because you guys don't really want to look at all that crap sitting on the lower deck, do you? As BN 2164 gets down to the corner, you'll see a couple of things down there. One is that kind of beige building that is part of my lumber plant that's going in, and the white kind of curved thing is a mock-up for another part of that building, as those are going to be bowstring truss buildings. And you'll see a old copy of the track plan kind of hung up on the wall over there as the train comes around the corner and starts heading toward us. And just underneath that section, you'll see the Digitrax command station and 2 boosters. As the train rolls towards us, we'll be passing the eventual location of my paper plant, which is inspired by what was the Rainier plant in Hoquiam, Washington. If you want to see what that actually looked like, there's some great pictures on a website known as the Jones Photo Archive. You can even see a lot of construction photos of that plant. The ugly Ethernet cable right in the middle of the video there is the connection I use for the computer for the layout command control configuration. All right. Okay, so a quick word about the grain transload facility that's at the end of the peninsula here. That's another fictional business. There is a grain transload facility down there now, but that didn't come in till the early 2000s early 2000s. Anyway, I wanted one, so I've got one on my layout now. All right, we passed the grain transload facility, and now we're passing what basically is going to be Aberdeen/Hoquiam Yard. Zoom out and get a wider shot of it going in this whole direction. And I'm going to pan around and we're going to look underneath the deck. And now the train will be circling back around to start its climb to the main level again. Okay, back on the other side, and we're passing the location for the eventual intermodal facility that I'm going to have. I haven't decided if I'm going to make this a single or double track facility. I'm pretty much leaning towards one, and that's probably what it's going to be. But I've been considering putting two tracks in so I could have the train could pull in and then kind of run around itself to get the power out of it. But I'm also thinking maybe it'll just be backing in there. Anyway, now we're starting on to the grade. As you guys can see, getting from one deck to the other doesn't just involve the Helix, but also a nice long 2% grade that goes about halfway down the wall. I really enjoy watching trains go up and down this, and when I get some scenery in there, it'll look even better. The only regret I have in doing this is that I didn't give myself about an inch or so between the wall and the back track where I could have put some trees and stuff in there to make it look cooler. Firmly in the middle of the Helix now, and in a minute or two, we'll be back on the main level. And there we come. We'll be back on basically, I could call that main 1 or main 2, really. But no matter how you slice the bread, it's back on the main level. And about now, you'll see the train coming around on the track that's closest to the wall. That brings us back around the peninsula, and since I have already selected track 2 on the panel, we'll be on track 2. Thanks again for joining me for episode number 95 of my South Olympic Branch Update series. Until next time, be safe, take care, and have fun with your trains out there.